Welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. And if you do like the programming that you see here and the musicians and artists that I visit with, please be sure and hit the like button below and also subscribe to the channel. Ken Popple is an English drummer, guitarist, and singer-songwriter, probably best known as a member of indie pop band Biff Bang Pow. Ken would first play with Creation Records founder Alan McGee in the short-lived band The Laughing Apple. The group would release 3 singles in the early 80s. Then in 1983, Alan, guitar and vocals, and Ken on drums would recruit guitarist Dick Green and bassist Joe Foster. The unit would be the original lineup for Biff Bang Pow. From 1983 to 1991, the band issued 6 studio albums, a slew of singles and compilations, most on the Creation label. Ken also played on a couple of tracks by fellow Creation artist Revolving Paint Dream. Afterwards, Ken began teaching and also picked up guitar. In 2020, my guest began his folk music project, Lord Fayrebank. Today, Lord Fayrebank is still alive as a duo, with Kevin Taylor joining Ken. Well, welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and taking time out to visit. Well, take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
Born in Boston, 1960, Boston, Lincolnshire, the small town, which is where a lot of the people involved in that music scene in particular came from. I was at school with Dick Green, who was obviously a Creation founder. I was also at school with a guy called, now I sent you a photograph earlier.
Yes, you did.
And I don't know if you recognize the guy in the middle. You probably didn't. But
no, I didn't recognize.
The guy in the middle was the guy that I played first in a proper band with DC-10. And that's Alan Moulder, the international record producer of many records, too many to list and still working. So he was at the same school as me. There was Dick Green as well. There was also Dave Evans, who was in lots of bands with me and the Mary Chain and all sorts of things. Another friend of mine from Boston was also a guy called Simon and Ed Down, who started the Pink label, who you will probably heard of with the bands, the Wolfhounds and numerous other bands. And so Boston was quite a fertile little scene when we all moved out, actually. So everybody we all moved out. I moved out in about 1979. This is pre-McGee, before I met McGee, and joined a band called The Results. It was a sort of an R&B band like Nine Below Zero, Dr. Feelgood. And I mean, this may mean nothing to you, Greg, but it might mean something to others. We were rehearsing one night and the guitarist, Larry, said to me, "Oh, my car's not working. Can you come and pick me up tomorrow night?" So I turned up at this house, which is very, very impressive. And I knocked on the door and Ronnie Barker, the comedian, opened the door.
Yes, the two Ronnies.
The two Ronnies. And he said, "Oh, hi, you must be Ken." And I'm thinking, I'm 19 years old and Ronnie Barker's going, "Hello, Ken, I like music, come in." So that
yes.
But after that, I left. We left there. We weren't doing anything really, to be honest. And then I met McGee.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I was just talking to a guy yesterday and talking about the British comedy. And how much I appreciate it. And he was mentioning the Goon Show, going back to the Goon.
Yeah, that's
early.
Yeah. But Ronnie Barker was an absolute giant of comedy in this country. And, with the two Ronnies and Porridge and Open All Hours, all sorts of brilliant comedy. And, I was 19 and he stood on the door in his Pringle sweater and his golfing slacks saying, "Come in."
That's fun.
That was great. Yeah, so that was before I met McGee anyway.
Okay. Well, going back earlier, were the drums the first instrument that you actually learned to play?
Oh yeah, they were. I used to bang on literally on pots and pans and with mum's wooden spoons, pots and pans and Tupperware, until I got my first kit at the age of 14, I think 13 or 14, something like that. And we used to set them up in the front room and play along to Top of the Pops.
Oh,
Which was the local.
I bet your parents loved that, you playing the drums.
It was allowed once a week.
Okay, they limited
Thursday night, Greg, 7:30 to 8 on a Thursday night, drumming along to whatever it was, Slade or T-Rex or something. Yeah, a small red glitter one. It's lovely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how about, can you remember the first single or album that you bought yourself?
I was wondering if you asked that, and I've got two answers, but one's a really cool one and not so. But the genuinely, it might. I think it was possibly my first one was a Slade one. Goodbye to Jane.
Oh, Goodbye to Jane.
Goodbye to Jane. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the Slade, T-Rex, Sweet, absolutely brilliant stuff. Absolutely wonderful music. And
the glam, yeah, all that
yeah.
glam. Yes.
It was either that or it was Roxy Music Virginia Plain, which I think my sister brought that, which is just still an incredible record. Absolutely marvelous. Virginia Plain,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, it was. I remember when I was a freshman, I believe, in college, and Roxy Music was so popular. And I
Yeah.
remember this. Well, a couple of friends of mine, they were always playing it in their room in the dorm, always playing Roxy Music.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can't remember when it came out, to be honest, 1970, whenever. But I remember seeing that on Top of the Pops as well and going, this is really weird, but great. And I don't know why. Because, only 13 or 14 or whatever.
Right.
And thinking,
Yes.
and parents going, why is he dressed like that? And, what's he wearing? Who do you think he is?
Right. Well, other than the glam bands and musicians, what were some other artists that you were getting into?
Oh, well, prog. I've come clean with it, Greg. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Yeah.
You've just got to come all out with it, right?
I know. Yeah. I mean, sort of early Genesis, Peter Gabriel, Genesis, yes, a bit of Deep Purple, all that sort of thing. And obviously, I'm more like, I'll be honest, if I'm putting on music these days and putting on sort of guitar music, it's more likely to be Foxtrot than the first Clash album.
Oh, I love Foxtrot. Oh, yes.
Do you?
Yes,
Yeah.
and the early, like you said, the early. I picked up. It's been a couple of years now, from Genesis to Revelation.
Oh, right.
The early stuff.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean,
It's great,
all,
isn't it? Yeah.
with Peter behind.
I feel slightly vindicated as well because I was telling Dick Green this because he mocks for me for my Genesis, but I was telling Dick Green that I read an interview relatively recently with Will Sargent from the Bunnymen.
Oh, right.
And his top 10 albums, it was Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Foxtrot, and King Crimson. Half of it was prog, so I thought, I'm okay.
You're all right.
Yeah.
You're in good company there.
I am. Yeah. So it's a good mixture. So rock, pop.
Yes. Well, we were following similar lines of influence. I can see that early on. Well, how about, can you remember the first or one of the first concerts that you attended, that you went to?
I'm not. I mean, there were local bands that we used to go and see, but it's a good mixture. I did go and see. This may be my first one. It's either the Buzzcocks, Stiff Little Fingers, or in fact Devo. Now I'd gone to see Genesis at Nebworth, and Devo were at the bottom of the bill. And I remember going to the front of the stage, and Devo were literally being pelted with cans. I mean, this is 78, literally being pelted with cans by the hippie audience who just wanted to see Genesis. And I was stood at the front, about 30 of us, and I think, this is great. And when they played Satisfaction, it incensed the crowd so much.
Right.
I think it was either that, or it may have been the Buzzcocks, I think, or Stiff Little Fingers. Yeah.
My best friend who's passed on a few years now. I remember he went to a Devo concert here, and they gave out those uniforms. I think it was yellow.
Yes.
Remember?
Boiler suits, weren't they? They were boiler suits.
Yes, that's right. And he would always wear one around, and everything. He was really proud of it. I remember that. Well, so earlier today, you sent me the picture, DC-10. Your first.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And then go ahead and tell us who was in the middle of that picture.
Oh well, that's Alan Moulder. I mean, people will have heard of him or not, but he's produced. So he and I were at school together, and we used to play in this band DC10. And then I moved to London, and then he stopped in Lincolnshire. But then he decided to move to London as well, and picked up with a guy called Flood, who's a producer, and he's got his own studio. And Alan's career is just amazing, just absolutely amazing. The reason I had it out actually because after about 30 years of not seeing him, I got in touch with him in just before Christmas, and so we're back in touch now. So it's really nice actually. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good.
He's done so much.
How long had you been out of contact with him?
Oh, probably since the 90s, probably
yeah.
since the early 90s, because I know he worked with a lot of creation bands. He worked with Ride and the Mary Chain and all those sorts of bands a lot. And but I was never sort of involved in the studio side of that whatsoever, so I didn't really see him much. Yeah, but he was it was nice to hear from him, and he was
yeah. I bet it was. I bet it was. Well, when did you first meet Alan McGee?
Alan McGee. I think it was 1980. So I'd moved to London and I was living in a place called Wembley, and I was playing with this band, The Results, and we weren't going anywhere. Basically we were pub rock, and it was a bit out of time really. So I saw an advert in I think it was the Melody Maker, I believe it was the Melody Maker, saying drummer wanted into the Bunnyman, Teardrops, and the Nips, and I phoned the number and it was Alan. I since come to my suspicion is that I was the only one who rang up. To be honest, Greg, I don't know. I think it was just me ringing up, but it was about 1980, and so I arranged to meet him at Clapham Common Underground Station. Okay. And so I went along one sunny Saturday afternoon, and he was there and immediately recognisable with massive bright red hair and charity shop jeans and a tank top. So we had a chat there. And then he took me downstairs into the underground to meet his partner, Andrew Innes, who was leant up the wall with his hood up on a hot summer's day, looked like he was going to knife you or something. Right. Basically looked like a Dickensian urchin.
Yes. Well, was he easy to understand with his accent when you first met him?
He was actually, yeah, because I sort of I think in Britain wherever you are, even though you may not have a Scottish accent, we understand them because we've heard them on TV and we occasionally meet people. So yeah, he was easy to understand. Yeah, but and I'd say the thing with Alan was the speed with which he spoke. Because thinking about it, Greg, he used to speak so quickly because he couldn't get all the ideas out of his head. They'd overlap each other. He'd be halfway through one idea and start on another idea. It was just incredible, really. Yeah.
Oh, I know people like that. Yes. Yes, I know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
So
we met him at this tube station, and then we went for a first practice in a place in Clapham where I ended up living, this squat, and it's tawdry. We climbed through the window, right?
Did you?
And then there was a little drum kit sat in the back of this room, and a couple of amps and a guitar. And they didn't have a microphone stand, so the microphone was hanging down from the ceiling light. So somebody got up there and wrapped the microphone round, and it was hanging down because there was no mic stand. But I don't think I'd heard any. No, I wouldn't have heard anything that they play because there was no internet or anything. But they started playing, and as soon as they started playing, Greg, I'd never heard anybody play like that.
Yeah.
It was just with Alan and Andrew, the energy in the room was just incendiary. It's like an early, not comparing us at all, but the energy was like the early Jam or something like that, slashing on the guitars, and it was me coming from Boston and playing in covers bands. It was like, what? what is it?
Yeah.
And I think the fact that nobody else had auditioned or phoned, they said, "Do you want to join the band?" Looks like it, doesn't it?
By Ken by default. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Right. Well, did Alan come up with the name the Laughing Apple? Was that his?
I believe it's from a Cat Stevens song, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if
Okay.
the band title is taken
So you
from
may
the song, but it is
okay
a
from
Cat
an actual
Stevens song.
song. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
it is. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah, so we played a few gigs, and funnily enough, I had because this is all 45 years ago.
Right.
I had a flashback when I was in the car the other day, and the Buzz Cops came on, and they played Six Music was playing the track Fast Cars. I don't know if you're aware of that track,
Yeah.
Fast
Yes, I
Cars,
know that.
Buzz Cars. And it took me straight back to one of our first gigs. We were playing at this club called the Moonlight Club in West Hampstead, and we were supporting a band called the Scars, a Scottish rock band. And Alan had this wonderful idea: is that we're halfway through the set, he brought a little Dansette record player on stage with us, and he said, "What we'll do, we'll stop playing, we'll do 4 numbers, we'll stop playing. I'll put Fast Cars on, and we'll dance to Fast Cars.
Dance to it.
We'll jump into the audience and dance to Fast Cars." So we did it as well. So we was anyway, blah blah blah. No reaction at all.
Yeah.
Alan stops. He puts Fast Cars on. Me and Alan and Andrew we were dancing at the front of Fast Cars. And then it stopped.
Yeah.
We got back on and started playing again. And the audience is going, "Why are they doing that?"
That reminds me, I watched. Did you see the new? I think Netflix Saturday Night about the Saturday Night Live. Have you
Oh no,
watched
I've
that?
not. No.
Yeah. I don't know if you get it over there. It's about the original,
Yes.
first show, and Andy Kaufman. Remember
Yeah.
Andy Kaufman?
Oh, Man in the Moon. Yes.
Yes, he was on there, and he did the thing with the Mighty Mouse. He played the Mighty Mouse record, and then when it said "I'm here to save the day," then that's what "I'm here to save the day," and then he wouldn't mouth any of the rest of the song, just "I'm here to save the day" whenever that part came up, and it went down well. I mean, the audience loved that. It just reminded me of that, playing a record on there.
Saturday Night Live has got some of my favourite ever, I think, and maybe another show, favourite ever TV music clips. There's a clip of there's the Beastie Boys doing Sabotage on there, and it's just brilliant. And there's also Gangsters, the specials, the first one from 79 and something. I'm sure they're all Saturday Night Live, or would it be Letterman or something like that? I don't know.
I think
they're all one to me, Greg.
Right. It becomes hazy after a while.
Yes.
Yes, it does. It does. Well. Who else was in the band? Did we mention the Laughing Apple?
The Laughing Apple was myself, Alan McGee, and Andrew Innes, Primal Scream. And then we got another guy in called Denny Poole. I think he was in with us, and then we became a 4-piece. And then we sort of split up. I think we must have split up. And then Alan restarted as Biff Bang Pow when we got my old friend Dick Green in, who'd just moved to London as well. So there was myself, Dick Green, and Dave Evans, 3 Boston Grammar School boys, and Alan McGee from in Glasgow. Yes. And from then. Well,
Alan, I wanted to say Alan was a big fan of 60s band The Creation.
Absolutely.
And that's where he set up, where the name came from for the Creation.
That's record. Right, yeah. And I must admit, it's not something that I'd heard. I mean, I'd heard of the obvious Small Faces, The Who comparisons, which I know then and still do, but I'd not heard of The Creation anyway. So we were named after that one. And it wasn't until somebody said, "Have you heard that record?" and played it to me that it struck me that the two were connected at all. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The song Biff Bang Pow. Exactly, yeah. Well, not jumping ahead of ourselves here, but the song Wouldn't You was on a flexi disc.
Yes, with the pastels.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Good memory. There you go.
I do think I'm not sure, Greg, because I found it recently because I've been having some work done on the house and I've been going through lots of, which is where I found the DC10 Alan Moulder picture. But I found that Pastel's flexi disc, and I don't think I'm on it. I don't think I'm certainly on the Laughing Apple one, which is the first single.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, the second single for the Laughing Apple. I'm on that one, but not on the flexi disc one. No, I'm pretty sure I'm not. Because they did Alan and Andrew and a guy now, what is Murray? Murray somebody. He was the first drummer. He was the first drummer in the Laughing Apple when they were up in Glasgow, but he left. Have you seen the Creation film that shows you a bit about that?
You know, I don't think I have. I need to check that out.
Don't. It's a dreadful film. It's dreadful.
Oh, now you're telling me not to. Okay.
It seriously is. Yeah, it seriously is. Okay. I shouldn't say it, but it's awful. It's awful.
Not okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll save my time.
Yeah. Do it out of curiosity. Just out of curiosity, Greg.
No, I hadn't. Speaking of, you mentioned Buzzcocks a couple of times. Did you see my interview with Steve Diggle?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay.
Oh, I should check that out. Yeah.
That was a while back, probably a couple of years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do check that out. We had some technical difficulties in it on his end, and had to edit out a lot of it. So it's not real seamless. But I think we talked about a lot of good things. And then when we talked about the passing of Pete, he got a little emotional. So, but it's a good watch.
I can only imagine, because I think it might have been the Buzzcocks, might have been my first gig. It was in Derby, it was 78, so it probably was. But I remember seeing them, and he said something so wonderful, because they were playing and they were drenched in saliva. It was appalling. I mean, it really was. People were just spitting and spitting, and they were singing. It was going in their mouths. And I remember to this day what he said exactly. He said, "If you don't stop spitting, we won't play." He said, "You don't spit at your record players when you're playing records. So don't spit at us." And I mean, it's just incredible to think that that's what people wanted.
Right. I will send you the link so you don't have to scroll. But
okay, good. Yeah,
after
I was looking at your list, and there's some good names there, aren't there? Some real 60s stuff as well, isn't there?
Oh yeah, a lot of 60s and 70s, and a few of more your contemporaries. I'd like to do more,
Yes.
So I'm thinking about maybe splitting the channel up into 80s and onwards, from the 80s and onwards. And then the other ones, the 60s and 70s, the older ones, like that. And then maybe it'd be easier to find, what you're looking for. I think I might end up doing that.
Yeah, no, good work. Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate that. Well, and the song, wouldn't you, would end up on the first Biff Bang Pow album. I forgot to add that part. But yeah, those flexi discs were a thing for a while. They
were usually free with magazines, weren't they? I think this one was free with. I can't remember who it's free with, but I mean, they were barely playable, were they? Let's be honest.
Yes, they were. I don't know if you guys had these, but predating that, you remember on the back? Did you have on the back of cereal boxes, 45s?
No.
Oh, you didn't have those?
No.
They were actually on there. You had to cut them out.
Really?
Yeah, and you could play them on your little,
Could you?
Yeah, you could. They weren't good, and they were kind of like wobbly. You know what I mean?
You've given me a marketing idea.
Yes, but they were, for a while. They'd be on the back of a cereal box, to sell the cereal. We'd have these little 45s. And
no, how fabulous!
Yeah.
All the cornflakes and your favourite single, yes.
Right. Don't spill any milk on them, though. They don't play.
No.
Well, no. Well, you stayed with Alan in the new unit, Biff Bang Pow.
Yeah.
Who else was recruited? You may have already.
We had who do we have? We had so there was himself, Dick, Dave, and Alan originally, and then Dave left us to join the Mary Chain, which is probably a better offer, isn't it? To be honest. Then we got a guy in called Phil King. Have you heard of Phil King?
Yes, yes, I have.
You must interview Phil.
Oh,
He
okay.
calls
Okay.
himself the indie zealot because whenever there's an indie thing going on, there's Phil
Yeah.
somewhere either playing or whatever. But we got him in the band. I think he'd been playing. Did he? I think he joined us from Felt because he was in Felt. Or was that
Oh,
before or afterwards? I can't remember. But we got Phil King in, and we had various. And then that was the lineup for about the other half of the albums, and Phil toured with us as well. We also had people like Ed Ball playing with us once or twice from the Times, and Nicky Sudden played with us once or twice as well when Dick was away. Yeah, so it was. And Andrew played. I think Andrew Innes played with us a few times as well. So it's quite loose. It's quite a loose house, creation house band, shall we say? Yeah.
yeah. Oh, I think I reached out to Lawrence.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I never heard back. I think it was.
Did you
Yeah,
not? That's not
I would
surprising.
love to talk to someone. One of
No, I think you'll be very lucky if that happens.
Right, right. Well, that's somebody I'll definitely look into reaching out to. Well,
I'm going to tell you my Lawrence story because I've only
okay,
got
go ahead.
everybody's got a Lawrence story. All right.
Okay.
So I mean, he's the archetype of cool and enigmatic, etc., 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 etc. So we were going on tour with them to Spain. I think it was Biff Bang Pow and Felt, and I'd read about Lawrence in the papers and thought, oh, this is going to be strange. So I didn't speak to him. So we were sat on the ferry, and I happened to be reading a Stephen King book.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, Greg, it was one of his, it's called Cujo. Cujo, it had a dog on the front, about the dog, Mad Rabbit.
The Mad Dog, yes.
Reading this, and I've not spoken to Lawrence. This is so funny. I've not spoken to Lawrence before this. But he came up to me and he sat down, he looked at me, looked at the cover, he said, I've read that. It's a really good book. And I thought, well, this is really nice. And he said to me, he said, but I wouldn't be seen reading it in public.
He said
Which sort of sums him up to a T, actually, because it's all about
kind of like what you pulled on me a little bit earlier about the Creation movie. Have you seen it? And then right. Don't you don't right.
Don't But Lawrence, he's still good. My friend Dave Evans, who I'm still in touch with a lot from Biff Bang Pow, etc., etc. He's been touring with him. They do gigs occasionally up and down the country, and I believe Lawrence with Go Kart Estate now. I think it's Go Kart Estate. They're supporting Primal Scream, who are touring this year anyway. But Lawrence will not like to be seen because I remember trying to take a photograph of him once when they were playing, and it's in the old days when you had a little rubbish camera with a flash. And he didn't tell me off afterwards. He said, "I saw you taking a photograph of me. Please don't use the flash next time." It's just like
right.
Makes my face shiny or something like that.
Right. Yeah. And I get that doing these. Some musicians don't want to be on camera or like that. Do the video. They'd rather do a written one or what have you. I get that.
Yeah. Now it'd be interesting if you do get in, Greg, but I doubt it, to be honest.
No. Well, one of the band's early singles, "There Must Be a Better Life," still one of my favorites.
Oh, good. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. And I was a little late discovering the band. I found that on the Creation Various Artists collection, The Patron Saints of Teenage. Do you remember that?
Oh, right.
Yes. I picked that up. That's how I find out about a lot of bands.
Wow.
Those collections.
When was this then, Greg?
Gosh, that must have been I was going to say in the 90s. Yeah, it must have been.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe the mid to late 90s.
Okay.
But I picked up that and it looked interesting. And I think that's also how I discovered the Jasmine Mink's "Cut Me Deep." Was all
you did. I did listen to you and
Jim Shepard. Yes. So I think that's where it was on there as well. But a couple of other tracks on that: Momus, Murders, The Hope of Women.
Death in Every New Beginning. Yeah.
And then a guy that you just mentioned, Nicky Sutton's Jangletown, is on there. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, because Nicky played with us a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yes, and that was
sad
fun.
Of his passing. It's been several years now. Nicky.
Yeah, it's been a long time now. Actually, yeah. I've got a story to tell you about him, but it's maybe not for recording. Actually.
Okay, maybe not.
I don't know.
Okay. If you want to pass on that,
I'll leave it.
Okay. All right. But you also played in Revolving Paint Dream. And you said a couple. Do you remember the tracks?
I do remember the track because it's one of my favourite tracks still that I'm not particularly fond of my drumming, to be honest, and I realised that I wasn't the best drummer, as well as speeding up and not being able to keep time too well. I just used to play loud and fast. But one of my favourite ones is still Flowers in the Sky, Revolving Paint Dream, which was just a total rip-off of Tomorrow Never Knows, the Beatles, you know. The whole thing. But it was great fun to do, and it was really, really good fun working in the studio with Andrew Innes and Joe Foster. I think Joe was a producer as well. Yeah, Joe was producing, and it was me and Andrew, and I can't remember who else, actually. It might have been a guy called Luke who played the bass, and Christine Wanler, she was certainly on the B side, which was in the afternoon, which is Biff Bang Pow recorded that as well, I believe, on Beat Hotel. But that was, I really enjoyed doing that because Andrew Innes is just such a phenomenal musician. He's so generous as well, because when I first started the Lord Fayrebank thing a couple of years ago, I'd send him tracks, and he'd send them back with ideas and suggestions, and some of it is his work, you know, in one respect. So it's really nice. But Andrew is just a brilliant musician, absolutely brilliant musician.
Who was J.C. Brouchard?
Alan used to pick up these waifs and strays, these sort of like-minded mavericks who were just a bit insane about music. And J.C. Broussard was just a guy from France who used to write to Alan and telephone him and wanted to put us on tour. It's a similar sort of ilk to a guy called Jerry Thackeray, the Legend. I mean, have you heard of the Legend?
Yes, I have.
He was the guy who used to come to Laughing Apple gigs with his carrier bag and be the only guy in the whole audience dancing manically down the front by himself, like we were the Clash or something like that. And he ended up playing on the very first Creation single anyway, was The Legend. And he played on that, but he's a similar sort. Alan used to like these crazy guys who were like full of life and full of mad ideas and wanted to do stuff. And it was the punk rock thing, Greg, that made people like me and everybody that we knew. So, hang on, it's not all about Genesis and Yes and that nonsense. We can actually do it as well. So yeah, the revolution was needed.
It was needed.
Backtracking now, Genesis is rubbish. All right.
It was time for that DIY ethic.
It was, it absolutely was, and it worked for so many people that I know doing it like that. Yeah, so yeah.
Yes. Well, he played on "Someone Stole My Wheels," J.C. Brouchard, on that '86 single.
I think he does a bit of a French, not rap would be the wrong word, but bit of a French monologue over the top of something or something like that. But that was a good record. That was an Andrew Innes one, I believe. Andrew wrote that. Andrew wrote that, yeah, because I think that was on. Was that on Oblivion? I don't know, to be honest, what record it was on, but that was a good record. Yes.
Well, so Joe Foster ended up leaving to go solo with Slaughter Joe.
A Slaughter Joe, yes. Not somebody I know a lot about. Quite an abrasive character. Not with me, as I've said to people before. I was no sort of threat to Joe because I was just a drummer in Biff Bang Pow. But I know he fell out with a lot of people. But as far as I'm concerned, he was fine. You know, he got stuff done and he had good ideas and he had strong opinions, shall we say?
Yes.
And wasn't afraid to vocalise. And or use other means of persuasion. Shall we say.
Oh, okay, got you. Yes, yes. Well, I wanted to mention a couple of tracks. One track looks like one from the albums from the 80s up into the 90s. The 91's Me. And then just kind of get maybe your recollections or what you
The album
remember.
called Me.
Yes, yes.
I have
The
no recollection at all of it,
you
Greg,
don't
because
have
I think
that
it's
was
mainly
that was
acoustic.
okay. That was 91. Yeah,
Was it
91.
91? Yeah.
Well, that was the last one, but I wanted to go back to 87's The Girl Who Runs the Beat Hotel.
Oh yeah, that's considered by people who like Biff Bang Pow that's a favourite one. That sort of that hit the sound that I
Yeah,
think Alan to some extent was after. I don't think we were ever what Alan wanted in terms of being musicians, because we were all sort of okay musicians, to be honest, all okay. And but that one seems to be the sound that encapsulates, the softer and more acoustic psychedelic sound, and the bit more rock outside as well. So that's one that people mention the most, or if they're talking about alternative albums of the 80s, shall we
that
say.
was 87. My favorite on the album is She Never Understood.
That's I like playing that one. I do play that one myself
Oh,
occasionally.
do you? Okay, okay.
It's a lovely song. It's a lovely song. Alan had this really good knack of just picking up the guitar and just thrashing out a few chords and putting a good melody over the top. And it was, he wrote some good songs, which he sort of tends to dismiss a lot. But I know a lot of people going, actually, he's a really good songwriter. Yeah, and there were a few good tracks. Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Oblivion, 1987. A Girl Called Destruction. I like that one.
Yes, that's a good one. That was
Yeah.
that album, Oblivion. That's quite a rocky one, isn't it?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
was there was quite a lot of Andrew Innes on that as well. 7 Seconds to Heaven. It's sort of a bit of a soul Motown Tamla beat going on there
Right.
as well, and Diamonds in Her Hair and all that. I
That's the one. That was my other pick. That was my other
yeah,
pick. It's kind of got a jazzy feel. She's got
it
diamonds.
has, yes. Some nice bass playing on that from Dave Evans as well. I think Dave had quite a big hand in producing that as well, because I think others weren't available. So I do believe that he probably pushed the bass up, but who wouldn't? Yes. It's a good album, actually. It's
Yeah.
a strong album,
Yes.
I think, actually.
It
Morning
is.
Text. I remember it's one we toured a lot. I say toured a lot, toured a couple of times. And I think we honed the sound in Germany. I think we've been touring Germany and we were playing that one a lot, I think. Yeah. But we were ferociously live and loud. Really, as a live band, it was full on. It was full on. I think there are some live recordings on YouTube, and you can hear it. It's No Holds Barred, I think it was.
Yes, that's a good
Yeah,
description. Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Uh,
It's my
and
tinnitus 40 years later, Greg.
oh
Still.
yes, I'm surprised I didn't go deaf. I am going to so many concerts, and I
Yeah.
would make the mistake of standing by the speaker.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I don't know why I did
Yeah, I mean, and it was worse, Greg. It was
that.
always much worse in small rooms above pubs.
Yes,
It was
right.
much worse because the sound. I mean, I'd be sat at the back there, and I'd
Yeah,
have a bass speaker there, and McGee's 12-string Rickenbacker there, and it was just white noise. And of course, earplugs. Nah,
yeah,
no,
right. No, I didn't use
it was
them.
just 3 days
I,
later, and you were still hearing it. But
right,
we do
right.
it now. But yeah, yeah, we were okay live. We had our moments, I think, actually, and it was nice to play
The
with.
I have to say the loudest concert I ever saw was Judas Priest.
Was it? Whoa!
Yeah, they had it cranked up, and it wasn't a big venue. I remember that too, so that probably contributed to it, the noise. But it was loud, and my ears were ringing for a few.
Right, yeah. The smaller ones are the worst because
Yeah,
the bigger ones are purposely built and they have a better sound system. And the smaller ones that we used to play in, it was just
yeah,
nobody. Just turn it up to 10. Everything is one of my favourite quotes from. I'm showing my prog roots here, but Deep Purple made in Japan.
uh,
there's a wonderful bit in between the tracks, in between Smoke on the Water and something else, where Ian Gillan, the lead singer, he turns to the sound guy and he said literally, "I want everything louder than everything else."
Oh, wow. No limits.
Yeah.
That's
No
funny.
limits. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I wanted to mention of the next album, Love Is Forever from '88.
Okay.
Miss California Toothpaste.
Yes, that's a good one. That's a good riff.
Yes, it is. And that's one of my favorites from the band, from any album. That's one of my all-time favorites.
In fact, I don't really remember how any of these songs started, but I think that one started. It's got quite a big. I think Alan had just bought a Marshall amp and a Gibson guitar, something like that. And he came out with this 2 or 3 note riff, and he was just playing it in the sound check. I'm sure he was playing it in the sound check somewhere. And we were just jamming along. He said, "We're going to play that tonight." And we all went, nobody knows what it is. And it's the first time we've ever played it, but he insisted on playing it that night because he loved this riff so much. It was just
yes.
long. Yeah, that's a great song, Miss California Toothpaste. Yeah. Love Is Forever. Yeah. I don't recall all the names of the albums, to be honest, Greg, but wasn't Me the last one?
Me was the last one.
Yes. Have you got a list there in front of you?
Yes. Yes, I do. No, it's just coming off the top of my head.
Top of your head, sure.
Yeah, I don't make a list. Yeah, I have to make a list.
Okay.
And then also from Love Is Forever, She Paints. That's a nice mellow track.
That's a nice mellow one, isn't it? Yeah. Alan could write them both. I mean, they're pretty simple stuff, just 4 or 5 chords. But I've always said, I mean, now I do a bit of writing myself. You don't need, if it's all about the melody, and if you've got a 4-chord song. I mean, I went to see the other night, in fact, about 3 nights ago, I went to see Lloyd Cole.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
It's an opera house. Now, this is the beautiful place. It was an Edwardian opera house, and he was playing with a full band, and he played. To be honest, he played it for a bit too long. He played for over 2 hours. He played 27 songs. And as he said, even in the middle of it, he said he was playing another one of his songs, and he was saying, there's only so many chords, aren't there, that you can play. So it was all got a bit samey, but it was a great night anyway. Yeah, but he was good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Lloyd Cole and Commotion's one of my favorites from back in that time. And he's in upstate New York. I think that's where he lives.
Is he? Yeah, I know he's been in. I think he was telling tales about how he moved to New York and inadvertently invented post-feminism. Was one of his lines, but you never know, do you?
No, you
don't. He's upstate, is he? Yeah.
Yeah, upstate. Yeah, and then David Sylvian is in Minnesota. I think that's.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And that's kind of strange. I mean, middle of the country up north, but usually it seems like a lot of the UK, when they either go to California if they immigrate or come over, or New York, or that area. But yeah, that's kind of anyway. I was thinking of She Paints. I was thinking it reminded me of another song. Who is the one that did He Paints in Colors? And he also did. He's the one that did I Know Where Sid Barrett Lives.
Yeah, it's TVPs, isn't it? TV personalities.
Yeah, it's TV personalities. Yes.
Dan Tracy, who was an enormous influence on Alan.
Ah, okay.
A real, as we sort of mentioned the creation, Biff Bang Pow band, whatever. Dan Tracy, in the early days, in the sort of the early living room, putting bands on above a pub, etc., making your own records, painting your own sleeve. Dan Tracy was the man for Alan. He really was, in terms of his DIY aesthetic and getting things done and doing completely your own control as well. So Dan Tracy was, yes.
Oh, yes. And I think he was born probably a few decades later than he should have been born earlier. During that psychedelic period.
Yeah, absolutely. He would have fitted right in, yeah. They're still going, but not with Dan, because Dan's not well. at all, apparently. But the band still play occasionally, get together a few guys, Dave Musker, Jeff Bloom, various other people from the indie scene. They play several gigs here, even just as a bit of a fundraiser for Dan, actually, as much as anything. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad you remembered that. I thought you would.
Yes, yeah, you reminded me. I didn't think I think it was one of those where you said something and I thought, I'm never going to get this.
Oh, you know what I hate is I'll hear a song like when I do these interviews, and it's like a riff in it or something that reminds me of another song, and I'll be sitting there and racking my brain like, what is that? It's a popular song. I can't think of it. And then maybe an hour later, when I'm not thinking about it,
That's
bam.
it. If you try too hard, you just let it go, and then it will come to you
Yeah.
when you least expect it, or you don't want it to. Yeah, when you're
That's
queuing
what
for the
happens.
groceries or something. Yeah, always.
That happens a lot. Well,
Yeah.
from 1990s songs for the Sad-Eyed Girl, I realize it doesn't feature you on drums, but I like
No.
Baby, You Just Don't Care. Yeah, that's it.
I think on one of them, or is it another? I do play castanets on one of them.
Okay. It might be that.
Or rather, we found I played castanets once and we sampled it because I couldn't keep time or something or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Look, and then moving on to Me from '91.
Yeah.
Sad Eyes in Velvet. The guitar, particularly in the intro, reminds me of Here Comes the Sun. Do you remember that?
Oh.
Yeah.
I've not played the album.
Okay. Go.
I actually don't know the album.
After this, I
Is
don't
it
know
good?
if it's on YouTube, if the track is, but Sad Eyes in Velvet. Sad Eyes in
Okay.
Velvet. And then listen to the intro and see if it doesn't recall for you Here Comes the Sun.
Oh yeah, quite likely.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I will. I must admit, I've not heard the album.
Okay. All right. Well, moving on. Afterwards, did you play with any bands or collaborate with anyone after Biff Bang Pow?
Didn't know. I mean, I was in a fun band at the back here in Lincolnshire called the Midget Submarines, who named ourselves after a Nicky Sudden. What band was Nicky Sudden in? You see, lost. Who was Nicky Sudden with?
Yes, who was? He was
I've
with.
known this for 45 years, but all of a sudden it's gone.
Swell Maps. Was it? Okay, that's right.
Yes,
Okay.
Swell Maps, which was a Swell Maps song, and
with his brother too, right?
Yeah, Epic Soundtracks.
Yes.
Yeah, and Swell Maps. Yeah, we named ourselves after a Nicky Sudden song because the guy who formed the band was a huge Nicky Sudden fan. So we just had a lot of fun doing very drunken covers around small towns. Nothing really to write home about, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yes. Yeah. So I didn't really play with anybody until I started I played in a couple of funk bands actually when I was living in Stroud in Gloucestershire called the Virginia Slims. There's some stuff on YouTube, and that was good fun. Some really good funk stuff as well. Until I met up with him, I must tell you about a meeting that I had as well. I'm going to name drop because that's all.
That's okay.
That's okay. So after Biff Bang Pow sort of finished, then at the age of 30, I went to university and I studied English literature, and so I ended up being an English teacher. But before that, I worked in the media, the national media, for 2 or 3 years as a picture researcher. I was working in photographs and images, and I got an interview with a place called Network Photographers, who were a photographic agency in London. And I'd heard about them. They had a good reputation because the man who used to run Network Photographers used to be head of Magnum. Have you heard of Magnum Photographers?
That rings a bell.
They had lots and lots of. If you see famous black and white images of war or street life or whatever, it's most likely a Magnum photographer. But anyway, so I got this letter and saying that you come along for this interview. You will be seeing 2 people. You'll be interviewing you. The first one is Mr. Burgess, who's head of the company, and the second one is Mr. Trafford, who's the library manager. So I went along to this interview, and I walked into this room. There was Mr. Burgess, the library manager, and next, did you know this? And next to him was Howard Devoto,
Oh,
magazine.
magazine, yeah.
I'm thinking,
Right,
and I was
right.
sat there thinking, oh my God,
Yes.
Howard Devoto, and he
Right.
said, and this is Howard, and he'll be charged. He'll be talking about this, and all I could think of was Howard Devoto's interviewing me for this job as a picture researcher.
Right, right.
So I got the job and worked with Howard for about a year and a half or something like that. And then he
Did
was
you? Okay.
manager. Yeah.
Okay. That's very interesting. Yeah, I'll have to edit this part out too, but I interviewed somebody that was in magazine. I'll just flip that over. That's my left.
Now Barry
Yeah, Barry. That's who it was. You just hit on it.
Adamson, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, did you see that one with
No,
Barry?
sorry.
Okay. I will. Well, those are
I
a
did.
while
I
ago.
just looked down the list.
That was a while ago. So I'll remember to send you that one and the one
Yes,
with Steve Diggle. The
Steve
links
Diggle.
to it,
Yes.
so you don't have to. Okay. Yeah, Barry. He played with Nick Cave too. Yeah.
Funnily enough, Greg, I was listening to. There's a program that we have in this country called Desert Island Discs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they speak to culture or people, whatever, about their 7, 8 favorite records and whatever. And this morning it was Nick Cave, and it was a long hour long
Is
interview.
that right?
It's fascinating. But he said something actually, Greg, that I wrote down because it reminded me. I was mindful of tonight's interview. He said Nick Cave said something that reminded me exactly of Alan McGee, and he said, I wrote it down. He said, I got a lot of energy from the contempt that people had for me.
Yeah.
And that was just Alan. You know, people, who's he think he is? This scrawny Scotsman. He can't do that. And Alan fed off that. You can't do that. You can't say that. And it would make Alan do it even more.
That's right.
Even
He turned it into positive.
Yeah. Got energy from their contempt, which I thought I could have spent 10 years thinking of that, but Nick Cave went, yeah.
Yeah, he said it. Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you remembered that. Yes. Well, the Virginia Slims, you just talked about that. And then when did you start seriously playing guitar?
Well, I moved to Nottingham. After I left London, I moved to Nottingham and met a friend, hooked up with an old friend of mine called Charlie Elliott, and he bought himself a guitar, but he can't even play a chord. But he used to do open mics. He used to put a sustained first pedal on it and sit there making these really, really strange, like Lou Reed feedback type noises. And I thought that's really impressive that you've got the nerve to do that. And I've got these songs. I've been writing songs. I've got a handful of songs for quite a while. And he said, you ought to play those. So I just started playing them at open mics and getting fairly good reactions, to be honest, Greg, and stuff like that, and put them on YouTube and getting a few reactions. So that's when it started, really. So I'd been doing it by myself for quite a while until last year, or was it the year before, I felt I wanted to play music regularly again. So I joined a covers band called the E-Fits, and we did purely punk new wave covers, 77 till 83, something like that, all the usual stuff. And it was good, but it was too loud. It was and we used to, I never played live, but we were supposed to play 2 45-minute sets in the local pubs and stuff like that. And honestly, by the time I'd finished playing for 45 minutes at full speed, I thought this is actually no good for my But one of the guys in the band who I've now teamed up with, Kevin Taylor, was such a nice guy and a great musician that I played him some of my stuff, and he's a far better musician than me, and I've got all these songs, and he just helps me record them, and we've started playing live and gone down pretty well, I think, actually. So we've got some more stuff coming up. Hope to finish an album fairly soon, and started playing. Yeah, it's great fun. Just really nice to be playing live, to be honest.
Yes, it is. Yes, well, that's interesting how you became kind of your father. It's too loud. It's too, it's like you eventually, like,
I say when we are playing, even at open mics, you have to go up and you take guitar up and you hand the guitar, whatever, and somebody hands you a lead. I'm literally there. If this kicks off, right? I plug a lead and it all explodes, and I'm thinking, I'm nervous around electricity, Greg. To be honest,
I am too. Believe me, I am too.
It's not natural, is it? Electricity.
Yeah. Well, what you said before we talked about, you said around 2020, Lord Fayrebank, you began with Lord Fayrebank.
Yes, I think it was around then. I say one of the guys, him and his wife that I worked with, her uncle was a guy called Simon Edwards, who owns his own studio in London. A lovely, lovely man who was in a band called Fairground Attraction.
Oh yes,
massive hit,
right.
hit. Effect, and then a few other hits. But he's a superb musician. He's played with Billy Bragg a lot. He's toured. He's recorded with Talk. Oh, so I mean, he's a superb musician, and I just started recording a bit of stuff in his place. So that was really good fun. But now, and here's the funny thing: the first, as I said earlier on, that my drumming was not. It's all right.
Yeah.
But the first time I played my stuff in the studio, and so he said, "Do you want?" I was just strumming on the guitar. I said, "Do you want a click track?" I went, "No, I'll be all right." He said, "I think you should have a click track." So he put some click track on. It's click, 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 and I started playing. Literally 5 seconds later, he stopped it. I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "You're way ahead." I used to be a drummer. It's really embarrassing, actually. It took so many takes for me to keep in time with a click track,
Oh yes.
But now we record in Kevin. He lives half an hour away in Kevin's studio because he's a master technician with his mixing and his recording and stuff as well. So I even sent some of our stuff to Alan Moulder, the world famous producer, and he said this is really nicely produced. It's really gratifying, actually. So.
Right.
I'll get there. I'll be famous yet, Greg.
You're gonna be. Well, I have to say, I really like the direction, the folk oriented type music.
Yeah, thank you.
Really.
Yeah, we've just started expanding it a bit by putting loops and beats on it, so it's going to be folky and loopy and beaty, hopefully at some point. Anyway, yeah. Do you play at all?
No, I don't.
Not at all. No. I bet there's a guitar somewhere in your house, isn't there?
There's a synthesizer.
Is that?
Yeah, and I bought that to learn the piano. And
did you?
Yeah. And I bought one of those DVDs or whatever, learn the piano in 5 easy lessons, whatever it was, right?
Yeah, sure.
And started out, first couple lessons are pretty slow. Okay, I'm catching on. Yeah, I can do this. And then it's like the next lesson is like light years ahead. It's like, okay, you've got this down. Then it's like, okay, now you're going to do all this complicated. I couldn't do it. I didn't have the discipline, and then I didn't have the discipline to go back. And
well, funny enough, think about that. None of the musicians that I know and have worked with can read music. I mean, it's just the chords and you teach yourself. I mean, I can still only play 7 chords, but how many chords do you need for a song, really, to be honest? But yeah, all the people I know don't read music at all, and it's never held anybody back that I know, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to mention a few tracks, if I could. So do I pronounce this right? Saudade? Is that right?
Oh, saudade.
Saudade.
It's a Portuguese word for a nostalgia for something that you don't quite know. So it's having a longing or a yearning, but you don't know quite what for. A nostalgia for an unknown event or
that's what it is.
Saudade, yes.
Well, you're probably aware that Love and Rockets did an instrumental of that track.
Call that?
Saudade. Love and Rockets, the band Love and Rockets.
Yeah,
and one of my favorites.
That's another band that I know.
Love and Rockets, really? No. Love and Rockets from the 80s. They were big.
Oh, right. I've heard people.
Love and Rockets. Yeah. It was a couple of ex-members of Bauhaus.
Was it?
Yes, not Peter Murphy, the guitarist. What was his name? Or what is his name? Him, and then the Haskins. I think he was he the drummer? Was he the drummer or bass player? Yeah, a couple of offshoots from Bauhaus formed 11 Rockets. They were real big and during the 80s, and
Yes, I
I
know
think
that. Yes, yeah.
through the 90s, and they had a couple of even on the dance club circuit. They were pretty big too, as well. But yeah, Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, that's one of the like I believe that's an album. But anyway, this track Sade, I thought, well, that's interesting because it's not very common, and I realize it's not the same as their version.
No,
But go back if you get a chance. 11 Rockets, and how you
I
pronounce it
will do.
again?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yes. And it's one of my all-time favorite instrumentals. It's really
Sudade. Yes,
it's
yeah,
Sudan.
yes.
Yeah, look,
Portuguese. I believe it's Portuguese.
okay,
Yes.
Portuguese,
Yeah.
Portuguese.
I like obscure words.
Yes, and I
We've got a
speaking
new
of.
song.
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll send you a recording of our latest song that Kevin and I wrote together called Ambido Street. Now you won't have heard of the word Ambido because nobody has, and I haven't until I was looking through a dictionary for obscure words. And Ambido means a sort of a melancholy that you get for staring at the rain that's coming down the window or looking at a sunset.
You
That
can't.
ambido is a melancholy that you get through experiencing the elements. Yeah. So
Oh, I like that. How do you spell it? How do you spell it?
ambido, Ambedo.
EDO. Okay, I'm going to start using that. I'm
I
going to.
would. I'll send
Yeah,
you our song actually because I've got a
yeah,
rough phone recording, so I'll send
yeah,
it to
yeah. Because I do that. I
you.
do that
Yes.
very thing. I do that very thing.
I
Yes.
do. It's for
Yes,
you
I
then.
do. Yes, I do. You know,
Yeah.
and in fact, I like a lot of the music I like. You would consider it melancholy. You know,
Yes.
and to me, some people say melancholy, depressing. To me, it's not. It's just moody. I like the word moody. You know, and
Yes.
yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
that's what I enjoy. You know, that kind of
Yeah.
music. A lot of music, but
The melancholy of Leonard Cohen is something to behold.
that's
You
right.
you know,
Well,
sad
you know,
music that makes you happy.
Peter Murphy. I just mentioned.
Yes.
You know, from Bauhaus. Um, I have to ask you when you were going to do the "Today My Dog Attacked Pete Murphy" from Bauhaus. Did you get his permit? Did you talk to him?
Well,
Uh,
no, but here's the thing, right? This is a true story that happened to my partner Estelle, and she
okay.
was telling me just a couple of years ago, or a year ago. She said, "Oh, we're talking about funny stuff," because she used to live in London, but she now lives here. And she was saying, "Oh, yeah, I remember in the 80s, I took my dog out for a walk, and Pete Murphy was there, and it went for him." And I just went up and stared and went, "Today, my dog attacked Pete Murphy." She said, "You can't do a song like that." Of course, you can.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
so we made this song and put it on Spotify, and Spotify's algorithm picked up that it had mentioned an artist.
Yes. Yes.
It said
Yes.
you are not allowed to mention. I think you're allowed to sing about an artist, but you're not allowed to mention an artist in the title without that artist's permission.
Permission.
So
Okay.
I had to get. So I didn't bother. I thought I'm not going to write to Pete Murphy. I did put it on about. I wanted to put it. I joined Facebook and I joined a group, a Bauhaus or the Mission and whatever, a goths, because I didn't like goths. I wasn't a goth at
Okay.
all. Some of it was okay. Some good pop songs even, but I joined a goth Facebook page, and one of the questions was. What are your three favourite bands? And I was going, The Mission, obviously. And I thought, I'll play a bit clever here and I'll just put The Sisters rather than The Sisters and Murphy. And
Sisters of Mercy.
I had to Google another goth band to put.
Right.
And I put
Right.
this track on and it got a very stony reply, actually. Some people go, I'm not sure if that's what we ought to be doing. And then I did look up a recent interview with Pete Murphy from Bauhaus. And I thought, yeah, I don't know if he didn't seem to have much of a sense of humour, to be honest, Greg. I'll be honest.
Okay. Okay.
He was still taking himself very seriously.
Right. Right. Yes. He seemed like the type that that
Yeah.
would do that. Yeah.
So I had to leave off the full title of Spotify. So,
Da-
but,
Daniel Ash. Daniel Ash is the
oh,
one, the lead for Love and Rockets. But you know what?
okay.
I will try. I will send you because I'm sure it's on YouTube. I will just send you the track
Yes.
on Facebook so you can listen to it. You won't have to
Yeah,
look it
do,
up. Yeah,
do.
after this, I'll
Yeah.
do that. But I really enjoy
Oh, lovely.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
But then back to the Buzzcocks, the cover of "Ever Fallen in Love."
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool how you reimagine the song in a more mellow acoustic thing. Yeah,
Well, we decided we wanted to play it, and we used to play it in the covers band, and it was all just as it is a very fast song. And I said, well, no, we need if we're going to play it, then if it's going to fit into our set, because our set's all originals. But I think if you've got a cover that's radically different to the original, then it's fine, it fits. And we just slowed it right down and made it our own. Actually, yeah, it's a really nice one to play. Yeah, so we've just got. We've got a full. Somebody wants to play 2 45-minute sets in a gig soon, and can't do that. I mean, bands don't do 2 45. So we've got to do 45 minutes of cover. So we're practicing all sorts of things at the moment, and it's good fun playing some old covers every now and then. As our own. Yeah, it's nice.
Right. A couple more things, real quick. Of
Yeah.
your recent work, I think "Land of Bud and Sky" is my favorite.
Yes. You said that was reminiscent of Texas, is it?
Yes, right. It does remind me of that. I mean, it's just like the wide open sky, just flat flat landscape, you know. And then one more comment. I like your solo rendition of "Oh What a Beautiful Morning."
Oh, that was my lockdown phase.
Oh yes.
I didn't like lockdown at all because I was living by myself in Gloucestershire, and I was teaching at the time. But we used to teach remotely, on Zoom and whatever. And it was a long few months for me. That was completely by myself. I got so many plans for that year as well, because that was the year I turned 60. And myself and my two oldest friends had also turned 60. Two of my two oldest friends had turned 60. And we had all these holidays arranged, and that was just gone. And then I was meant to spend Christmas up in Lincolnshire with my family, but I spent it alone again. It was awful. But so I did some covers. I'm working on a cover now. Kevin is going to hate this, but I've got a thing at the moment for Billy Joel, and I know it's awful.
Okay. Well, I like
his
early stuff. Like Piano Man.
Yeah.
I like that. Once he sold out, that later material, I can't deal with it. I just, yeah. It's real disposable for me. No. But yeah.
What a music snob you are, Greg.
Right. I have been. Well, collecting so much of it, it's like anything you do a lot of, kind of hone your taste, you do that, It's broadened my spectrum. It definitely has.
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff that I've gotten into, I used to would have thought, no, but at the same time, it makes me see what a lot of garbage, there's a whole lot, I just don't have the time for it, And I can predict. I can say, somebody will say, "Oh, have you heard the new whatever?" Somebody, sellout artist, somebody who's real commercial. I'll say, "No, I don't have to. I can tell you right away, I'm not going to like it."
That's not open-minded, Greg. That's terrible.
Right. That's not exactly. And then when I do get around to hearing it, it's like, "See, I told you."
You remind me of my old friend Dick from Creation and Biff Bang Pow. Have you heard? No, I'm not interested. Oh, you have not heard it. Not interested. Look away, but no.
Exactly. So that's fun. But "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning." That's one of those classics that you don't hear.
It's a lovely song, isn't it?
Covered very much. No, you don't. You just don't hear it.
I love it. It's just a great song.
It's so positive too. That's what I like. It really is. All right. Well, anything kind of in closing, coming to a close here, that you'd like to mention or plug or
plug? All right.
Yeah. I asked for it.
You did, didn't you? Yeah.
Yes.
No. We need some more Spotify. I think we're in danger of falling off the scale in Spotify.
Oh no.
Is that the sort of plugin that you mean, Greg?
Yes, right. Well, yeah. I did ask you.
Yeah, you did ask. Oh, no, I didn't make a list, but I've written down Love and Rocket, so it should be good. I like this. I tend to listen if I listen a lot of jazz, Bill Evans and piano music and stuff like that, and whatever. But I did discover somebody recently. Kevin and I were going to do a Nick Drake cover, Pink Moon.
Oh, that would be nice.
Fabulous. And then I discovered an artist called Daisy Rickman, who is a wonderful, wonderful guitarist and singer from down in Cornwall. Daisy Rickman, beautiful, beautiful voice. She's literally like the love child of Nick Drake. No, sorry, Sid Barrett and Nico, or something like that. Nick Drake and Nico. She's a marvelous, marvelous singer. Daisy Rickman, look her up. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, I'll look her up.
Yeah.
Well, great, Ken. Again, it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you.
Anytime you make me laugh, it's definitely
good.
One that I'm going to remember, and good. One that's gonna go down well with the viewers. It's definitely going to go down
well. Thank you for taking the interest. It's much appreciated.
Well, you're very welcome. Very welcome. I love hearing your stories. I love hearing you recounting those, and the some of the tangents are also welcome. I love.
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
That's all right. That's very very well to do that.
Prompting me to all this nonsense. All right.
Oh yeah, and it's good to spark the memory.
Good. Thank you very much. I'll send you some stuff that we've been talking about as well.
Okay, do that, and I will get you a copy of this. Usually a week or so.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 5-7 days, and then you can post it wherever you'd like to, and then it'll also be on, of course, on my YouTube channel.
Excellent. Yeah. Good. Lovely to meet you, Greg.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too, Ken, and all the best to you. Okay, and let's try and keep in touch.
I will do. Yeah, much appreciated. All right. Speak again.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Have a good week. Okay.
And you. Don't work too hard.